Hey guys, what's growing? It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm, and today I am working on getting stuff transplanted, cleaned up, put out. It's a warm day. Tomorrow's going to be even warmer, and I think we're done with the rain for quite a while. So, first I'm going to water here in the greenhouse, and then I'm going to start by cleaning up my cactuses and succulents because I want to get those guys out onto the patio. So I have a selection of succulents here that I'm going to start with. We'll start with this aeonium. So they have sat completely bone dry all winter long, and I just started watering them this past week. What that does is then it's going to trigger the growth hormone in the plant, and it will start putting on active growth. It will actually start flowering, which is so cool. A lot of these succulents have flowers that hummingbirds love, and so it's so cool because they're right next to where we hang out on our patio, and the hummingbirds come right up to them and will drink nectar from the flowers of these. So what I do is I take off all the dead leaves. I replenish. I always have a lot of these rocks on hand. I replenish the rocks so that it looks, white and clean. And what these rocks do actually is they are decorative cover, but they also help hold in a little bit of moisture. And these guys I do end up watering them like once or twice a month, depending on how hot it's been. I think it's a misnomer that succulents and cactuses don't need water. They do. They just need a lot less than a lot of other plants. So this guy's been cleaned up. Well, there's one more dead leaf down here. This is an aeonium. It's going to go out on the patio. So it's ready. Now this one doesn't need a whole lot. It's looking pretty good. The other reason I do this kind of spring cleanup for them is that it helps me to see if there's any places where it's rotting or needs, to be cut back, stuff like that. All right, this guy's doing pretty well. Don't remember the genus and species of that. Or this one. This one has a lot of rot in it, as you can see. I'm not going to cut that away. We're just going to see what happens. This is one of those living stone succulents, and you can see in the middle there, there it is. It's right in here. There is new growth happening already. So I'm just going to put a few more stones on here, set this guy outside, and actually give them all, when I set them out, I'll give them all a little drink of water, and then we'll see what happens. So here's a nice example of one that's already starting to flower. Here's the stalk, the flower stalk. I do see a little bit of spider mite activity down there, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about that because what I've learned here is that it gets hot enough and in the direct sun, unless it's a huge infestation, which this doesn't look like it is, the spider mites just die in the heat and the direct sun. So this guy, pretty well taken care of. I'm not going to do too much. I'll just give it some water and set it out. So here's a succulent garden that I think I built last year, maybe the year before. It's looking great. There's a couple of dead leaves down here, but they're kind of hard to get to, and I don't want to break off the leaves of this jade. So I gotta or that burrow tail right there. So I think I'll just kind of let them do their thing. They'll feed the soil. But the rocks are looking a little dirty, so I am going to replenish those, and then I'm just cutting off the flower stalks from last year. Most of it is gone anyway, but get the rest. So here's a new flower stalk right here. Here's a new flower stalk. So all it takes literally is a little bit of water to kickstart them, and they're like, okay, it's go time. That's why in the desert, springtime is the height of cactus flower season, because that's when you know, they get their water in the winter at the, you know, at the end of winter, and then they just start taking off in growth. All right, I'm using a spoon because it's hard to get in here with your fingers without filling the cavities of the plants. Okay, I mean, for the most part, this is looking fine. Just wanted to give it some fresh. Every once in a while, these stones start to get discolored, and I want it to look fresh and clean. All right, this guy's ready to go out. So here's another garden. It is actually getting a little overgrown, so I'm going to have to carefully come through here, pull out some of these leaves. Okay, and cut off last year's flower stalks. So this particular one plant here is really starting to expand out of the container. It's not a bad thing, but maybe later this season I'll take some of it out and divide it. And in fact, I think I'm going to do that right now with one of these. So this right here, I'm going to cut it off and show you. This beautiful succulent is a pup from this plant. It's excellent. It's beautiful. It's in great shape. But it was kind of covering up these guys here, so I'm going to just set it aside. Actually, I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. I'm going to set this aside and let this heal over, and then I will plant it in its own pot. Or if I have any pots that need me to fill them out more, I'll put it in one of those. But I'm going to let this heal over so it doesn't rot first. So that'll take a day or so. Now here's another aeonium. These, if you just let them go, they'll get super tall, which is fine if that's what you're going for. I kind of like them when they're smaller, like right against the soil surface. But I think for fun this time, I'm going to let this guy go, and we'll see what we get. It's kind of nice in a way that it's tall because it can sit at the side. This goes on a side table as a trio with other plants, and so it could be the taller one of the three. I am going to put some larger stones, I think. Maybe I'll do sand. Yes, we'll do sand. You can use a lot of different things as a topper. Decorative stones, sand, horticultural grit, but I think that one looks nice. Okay, this one is big and heavy, but it's kind of sparse. However, I don't think I'm going to plant anything new in it right now. I'm going to give you these guys, I think I put this one together maybe last year. I'm going to give these guys a season and see how they fill out. And I was going to trim this, but it's got a flower. It's about to flower on the end, so I'm definitely not going to do that. What it does need, though, is a little refresh on the stones. And I think I'm almost out of white. So we'll just give it a bit of the green and white. Now there's a little tiny guy coming up right here. Right there, very hard to see, but I'm gonna let that one grow on. I was gonna cover that area with stones, but I'm gonna let him grow up. All right, it's time for this guy to go out. So this one is another one of those, that trio I was talking about. I didn't realize how many white stone ones I had, and that it's going to need more white stones, but I don't have white stones, so there's going to have to get green and white ones this time. But I'm hoping that this little burrow tail that I put in towards the end of last season will take off and do a nice little spill over the side. Now this one is quite large and very pokey. So to save my hands, I'm going to be real careful here. This, look at that. Okay, this I'm going to cut off right here. This is all last year's flower spikes. And actually, from here, I can cut them even more. So here, if you look, you can see there's pups forming on all of these. So I could take these off, cut them short, and propagate more pups of this particular plant. Get rid of this here. Just by, just from cutting it. So I think I'll do that. You could take each individual leaf on these, each individual leaf, set it out on a tray of potting soil, don't bury it, and they will start to form roots. If you can see right there, those are roots. And then that will eventually become a plant that you can put into a container. So I'm cutting these away because there's some rot down here. It's not terrible, but definitely don't want to let that spread. Might be rot from last year because it seems pretty dry. I'm going to save this because it's got lots of pups growing here, and I can pull all of those off and plant them up. I don't have any more of this stone, so I'm just kind of spreading it around to try to cover up these darker parts of the plant. Hopefully this will fill in and it won't look as rough on this side. You guys can't see it from there, but there's a new seedling right here coming up, which is great. So they're propagating themselves. This and this, super spiky, ouch. This, not spiky at all. It's actually really soft. This is a type of prickly pear. All right, so this guy's ready to go out. This one's been up in the top of the greenhouse. So very neglected, drying out quite a bit. We'll see. I mean, it'll probably be okay, but definitely needs a lot of water. You know, it got hotter up at the top of the greenhouse. It had more sun over the winter. And covered in, oh look, these are all new, that's all new flower buds. It was also clearly covered in spider webs. Pull some of that out. The spider web stuff will go away pretty quickly once it gets outside. And I can do some of it in here, but the breeze will help with that. Oh, here's another pup. So here's a pup to this one. I think I'll leave it for now because this container is not super packed. And I need to go get more of these particular rocks because I don't have this color right now. And it definitely is sparse on the rocks. Like it needs me to fill them in to make this look cleaner. This is a pup to this like pyramid plant here. Some leaves here too. It's not looking so good. It actually looks like it's overwatered, which is really interesting. But I'm going to give it some time and see what happens. Maybe it'll bounce back. So I'm going to put this guy out, but I am going to get more of these dark stones so that I can fill in make it look a little cleaner. Scrape out some of these spider webs. All right. So depending on what I feel like doing, I could grow out some of these pups and put them in here, or I could put this pup somewhere in here, maybe over here. You know, we'll see. But it's got room. It has space. This I'm a little concerned with. It's weird. It looks almost overwatered, but it's got pups around it that are looking great. So yeah, we'll just see what happens. You know, I have this trio here, which is looking pretty good, and it doesn't really need a whole lot in the way of cleanup. This is new flowers forming right here. This is the old ones from last year, and I do have some of these stones, so I can add a few more. This is last year's flower stock. Can take that off. Same with this. And, oh, here, this is last year's. All right, so it's pretty much cleaned up. These two look fine in terms of stones. So I will just add to this one. These guys actually go on our outdoor dining table in a row down the middle of it. And this one is super pretty. It's pretty lush, actually. These are like super glossy. Just trying to pull out some of the leaves that have died and are underneath. And these dead leaves are not dead because they were diseased, they're just old leaves. So this also happens with, well, this happens with all plants, but a lot of times people will find dead leaves on their houseplants and think that maybe there's something terribly wrong. But houseplants cycle through leaves as well, so sometimes it's just old leaves. If you have lots of fresh new growth on your houseplant and those leaves are healthy, then you don't need to worry, because all your plant is doing is getting rid of what it no longer needs. This tail right here is really heavy, so I'm going to take it off, and I'll use these to propagate. I'll snap individual ones off of this to make more of those, of that plant. But it was falling over, and it would have broken the stem anyway. All right, this guy, I'm going to take him out too. Okay, so just need to put a few more stones in if I can fit them. This one is producing roots up the stem. Actually, they all are. Aerial roots. Interesting. All right. I don't know that I can fit more stones in here. This one's really pretty. Okay, just a few more. This guy, never done well. This one, the Aeonium, has been fine, but the other two that I put in here, they struggled from the get-go. So I think I'm going to pull those out, and I will leave the spot open to put one of these new pups in. I'll just leave this guy in the greenhouse for now, because in a couple days, when this heals over, I can pop that in right here. Lots of dead leaves on this Aeonium stalk. Yeah, I don't know why these didn't do well. I really was excited about them because they spill over the side. Like, here's one pup to this plant, but that's it. I mean, the rest is like, it's very shallowly rooted. So yeah, it just didn't thrive. Same with this one. I got them, like I said, because they were spillers, and I thought, oh, how cool for a succulent garden to have spillers. It's unusual. All right, so this guy actually has pups growing on the underside of the top leaves. Isn't that crazy? All right, so this will stay in the greenhouse until some of these others heal over, and then I can actually just pop these in here and they'll fill those spaces. Okay, so we've taken the brooder and brought it up front. This is a stock tank that I've been using as a brooder. I drilled a ton of holes in the bottom of it, filled it with soil, added fertilizer, starter fertilizer, and now I'm going to plant these sweet potato slips. So this is going to be the Beauregard variety. I need to leave the tag so that I will go make a tag. They are wrapped in paper, moist paper, so that they don't rot, but that they stay moist enough. And I'll show you what these look like. So these are the sweet potato slips. You can see they have roots on them, which is what you want. Yes, this looks not so good, but they'll perk up and they'll start putting new growth on pretty quickly. So I don't think I'm going to be able to fit all of these in this bed. The spacing for these guys is about 10 inches apart. So I'm going to go on and get these guys planted, and then we can move on to planting the other variety in another part of the garden. Okay, so they're firmed in, and in a minute after we plant the other ones, I'm going to give them a good watering. This soil is damp, but it needs to be wet for them to start off in so that their roots can start soaking up and spreading out. So let's move on to the next bed where we're going to put the rest of them. Okay, so this section of the garden has been empty for quite some time. Not ideal. But I'm going to put the sweet potatoes in here. This soil is also pretty soft, so I think they're going to do well. I think it's going to be fluffy enough for them. So what I'm going to need to do first is make sure I don't have any weeds. Looks good, pretty good otherwise. And then I'm going to sprinkle some starter fertilizer. Up and down the rows. All right, and we'll just kind of work that in. And then we just plant them the same way we planted the other ones. There's only a few Beauregard here, 3 left. So I'm gonna put them on this end. All right, now this next variety, it's called Hernandez. So I'll write a tag for them as well. And it's the same thing, same process. And then even though this is on a drip system, I'm going to come in with a watering can and get these guys nice and wet. This soil is even wetter because it rained so much yesterday. Okay, watered in, fertilized, planted. That's all good. It's been a busy day. I'm sitting in here in the chicken run. The chickens had their first night in the coop last night. They did great. I was actually really paranoid because overnight the temperature dropped a lot lower than I thought it was going to. The reports said it was going to be around 49 degrees. It ended up being 42. And I was so scared that I was going to wake up and one of them was going to be dead, or 2 of them. But they're doing great. They did well overnight. I opened the door this morning to let them out in the run for the first time, and it took them a while to figure out the ramp. But after the first one did it, then the rest of them were like, oh, okay. They have figured out their new feeding system. So they have a waterer that they know how to use. They have a food silo they know how to use. That will go up much higher. It's not going to stay out here overnight. I'm actually going to put it in the coop with them overnight, not because they need the food, but because I haven't gotten it high enough to deter rats yet. And so it'll stay in there with them where the rats can't get to it. But they're doing well. They seem to be happy. They've been scratching and pecking all day, and I fed them some strawberry tops and some blackberries and some radishes from the garden, and they just seem like they're happy, and it makes me happy. They've been running around testing their feathers, like, yeah, it's been really enjoyable to hang out with them, even though the noise on this road kind of sucks. I'm used to it. I don't notice it anymore. I think they are getting used to it, which is great. Uh-oh. I noticed she's got a red dot on her beak. That's either from fighting or she got hurt somehow. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that. I have some blue coat that could pop on there so they don't peck her. But I think I'm gonna call her Farah, and if anybody is old enough, they'll know that's like Farrah Fawcett from the 70s, because that's an Americana, and she's gonna have a mane around her, so I think that her name's gonna be Farah. Then there's another one that I think I'm gonna call Peaches. This one over here is the one that Farah keeps fighting with. I think they're trying to establish their pecking order, but it's been tough. I don't know what I'm gonna call her yet, but she's super fast. She's like really flighty. I don't know, I'll figure out something. These three guys, so for sure, one of them is a barred rock. I believe it's this one eating right here because she's got yellow legs, and I noticed the difference between her and the other two, although that one has yellow legs too, so it's probably also a barred rock. When they have white legs, I guess they are the cuckoo morans that I also have. So it's going to be hard to tell the three of them apart. Their nose markings are almost identical. So yeah, I'm still trying to, like the others there's plenty of physical characteristics that separate them. There's the one that I think I'm going to call Peaches. Mike called her Ginger the other day, but I think I might call that one Ginger. I don't know. We're still trying to sort it out, but I would like to be able to differentiate between those three. They look almost identical. You're thirsty, aren't you, Farah? All right, so I'm just going to sit out here and enjoy my chickens for a little while before I need to go inside and get ready for a party tonight. I'm going to be doing more work tomorrow, hopefully out at the farm transplanting, because I desperately need to get that done. And then I have a lot of transplanting to do here as well, of yarrow and monarda and some other stuff, baptisia, etc. So I'm looking forward to that. It's fun to transplant, and I might get the family to help because I'm just really far behind. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.